The year now passed upon the brink of change. Now this is the condition of Savitri. All we have seen now. See. So see how the whole thing goes on. The seesaw game in her soul. She is happy, extremely happy in the company of her husband. At the same time, that grief is haunting her all the while. And ultimately, what happens is the intensity of that grief is such that the very self of grief becomes calm. The very self of grief becomes calm. To give a very crude example, see, when in our ordinary daily life, or not daily, in our life also, when there is intense grief, you weep and weep and weep and weep and weep and cry, and ultimately you fall calm. You become calm. You fall silent. As if you have exhausted all that you had to say. Helplessly you become calm. You do become calm, you see. There is so much of intensity of grief. You express it, you weep, shout, cry, do all kind of tantrums. Ultimately, everything stops. It becomes calm. But this is a yogic action of Savitri. It is not the vital action of Savitri. The vital action in our case gets exhausted, and therefore it becomes, so to say, calm. It is not really calm. It gets exhausted. It loses all its energy, and therefore it becomes, so to say, calm. Here, Savitri's case is not that. It is a very deliberate kind of a yogic thing which has happened in the case of Savitri. So this is the yoga of remorse. Yes.
So in this case, what does he mean by dull eye? Dull eye.
Dull-eyed, resolute. It is a grief. Grief has become dull. Yeah, well, yeah, grief has become, yeah, it got exhausted. Yeah, yeah. But at the same time resolute. At the same time resolute. Awakening, see what for? Resolute for what? Awaiting some issue or a fiery struggle. Dull-eyed because it cannot see what is going to happen. It cannot see what is going to happen. The grief is so much that you cannot really, therefore it is awaiting. It cannot see, therefore it is awaiting. Grief's self became calm. In fact, this is the most remarkable phrase, most remarkable psychological description of Savitri. It is not she who has become calm, it is the self of grief who has become calm. Such identity of herself with the universal grief. Dull-eyed, resolute, awaiting some issue of his fiery struggle, some deed in which it might forever cease. Victory over itself and death and tears. This is what he is awaiting for, grief. Some issue, he is waiting for that. Now the poet is moving forward. The year now passed upon the brink of change. The whole thing is going on for the whole year. No more the storms sail the stupendous wing. No more the storms sail. No more the storms. Because the grief's self has become calm. The grief self has become calm. Sailed with stupendous wing and thunder strode in wrath across the world. And thunder strode, no more the thunder strode. See, it is understood. No more the storm sailed, no more the thunder strode in the wrath across the world, and still was heard a muttering in the sky, and rain dripped wearily through the mournful air, and grey, slow drifting clouds shut in the earth. So her grief's heavy sky shut in her heart. So the grief also has now become enclosed there. So her grief's heavy sky shut in her heart. A still cell hid behind but gave no light. Savitri does not yet see the light. She doesn't know all is happening in the night. She does not still see the light. What will happen? No voice came down from the forgotten height. Only in the privacy of the brooding pain, her human heart spoke to the body's fate. Only in the privacy of his brooding pain. So she's alone, private, of the pain which is there in her heart. She's alone. And her human heart spoke to the body's fate on the physical plane. So that is how Savitri is kind of getting prepared for her yoga. See. Now,
Powerful teacher, love is.
pardon me?
Love is such a
Yeah. That's true. Now, if you are interested, you can see some of these descriptions in our Running Through Savitri. Running Through Savitri. What we had just now quickly seen. I mean, this is interesting. Running Through Savitri, pages 11 to 55 in this book. Now, what we are doing, again in the same book, we have got from page 462 to 469. See what we have just now read. Intolerant to the poverty of time, her passion catching the fugitive hour, veiled the expanse of centuries in one day of prodigal love and the surf of ecstasy. Or else she strove even in mortal time to build a little room for timelessness. This is what we have seen last time also. Her soul secluded shut into his soul. All of his speeding days that he could spare, he describes again, from labor in the forest hewing wood and hunting food in the wide sylvan glade, 111.35, what we just now, and chose bidding her. This is the joy of union of the two lovers. Youthful and fragrant joy in the insufficiency of rushing time. You are getting this same? Yeah, there you are. Oh, it's there. Good. Only 12 quick months are given to the young couple, and such a one would be no more there afterwards. Undeniably, in a strange mixed circumstance of happiness and grief, Savitri is leading an inexplicable divided life. Human Savitri with human emotion and ambience. In the intimate embrace of her lover, she would guard him and treasure the moment in sweetness of the soul. But there is a poverty of time, and the fugitive hours would take away the treasure of love. He would pour himself into her, etc., etc. And then the psychological condition in which Savitri is. Now, this is what the mother says. Despair is never a necessity for progress. Is Savitri disappointed, dejected, remorseful? No. She is not. This is very important. It is not Vishad. What we have got in the Gita, Arjuna's Vishada Yoga, the yoga of remorse. He says, I am going to kill all my friends and relatives and elders and all that thing. Better to give the battle. That is the Vishada. That is the remorse. Savitri's condition is not that. Savitri, she is not despair in that sense. She has identified her grief with the grief of the entire world. Despair is never a necessity for progress, said the mother. It is always a sign of weakness and tamas. It often indicates the presence of an adverse force. See, she goes even further. Adverse force, that is to say, a force that is purposely acting against sadhana. See how powerful. So, in all circumstances of life, you must always be very careful to guard against despair. And this is what we have seen in the case of Savitri, you see, how she is, you see. Besides, this habit of being somber, morose, or despairing does not truly depend on events. It depends upon your inner state, how you are, but on the lack of faith in the nature. One who has faith, even if only in himself, can face all difficulties, all circumstances, and even the most adverse without discouragement or despair. He fights like a man to the end. Natures that lack faith also lack the endurance and courage. Shabandhu tells us that for human beings, the degree of success in physical life depends on the degree of harmony between the universal and individual physical nature. So that is the kind of a harmony Savitri has between her grief and universal grief, that relationship, that intimacy. Some people have will which is spontaneously in tune with the will of nature, and they succeed in everything they undertake. Others, on the contrary, have a will which is more or less totally out of tune, etc. Well, I mean, you can read that. I given the page number. The date is 4th May 1960. Shabandhu, in his hour of crisis, of bewilderment, the moment which happened in the case of Shabandhu's life, was asked by a voice from within to wait and see. He was in Nalipur jail and he was in despair, so to say. What to do? What is going to happen? And then the divine voice he heard. Wait and see to know what he had intended for him. A day passed, and second day, and a third, when a voice came to me from within, wait and see. That is Krishna's voice. Then I grew calm and waited. And I grew calm and waited. I was taken from Lal Bazaar to Alipur and was placed for 1 month in a solitary cell apart from men. There I waited day and night for the voice of God within me to know what He had to say to me, to learn what I had to do. Same thing is happening in the case of Savitri. Savitri is holding back her troubled human heart and is calm like a hill. She is waiting for guidance. Adesh, word, tell me what I should do. Savitri is already in that state. A power within her speaks. In that condition, the power within her speaks. I am thy portion here charged with thy word. I am thy portion here charged with thy work. As thou myself seated forever above, the divine Savitri is telling the human Savitri, speak to my depths. The divine Savitri who is within the soul of Savitri, she is asking the divine Savitri from above. The Savitri, divine Savitri behind the human Savitri is asking the divine Savitri from above, speak to my depths, O great and deathless voice, command, for I am here to do thy will. It is that divine Savitri which is there in her soul. She is asking for the command and it is received by her, and then it gets kind of transmitted to human Savitri. And then begins her yoga. Well, it is there in this book. I have given the page numbers, so it's a long passage, you see. And we'll see some of these things again next time. Often it seemed to her the age's pain had pressed the quintessence into a single bow, concentrating in a tortured world. Thus, in the silent chamber of her soul, this is what we have seen just now, you see. Savitri received the first set of instructions. She is told, find out thy soul, recover thy hid self. In silence, seek God's meaning in thy depths. This is the command she gives. This is the advice. This is the instruction, Savitri. This is what will happen in the next canto, in the second canto, the beginning. You see. We'll take this thing next time.